In this video, we're going to create the def collision or the end game collision. So when you fall into water or when you fall into lava, the game ends, okay? This is a little bit fiddly in Godot, probably a bit more complex than it needs to be, but currently this is the simplest way that I've found of doing this. So let's have a look at this. So we're going to create a new scene. Once again, if you don't have the empty one set up, you can just go scene and then new scene. But because I've already got this empty set up, I'm going to use this. So I'm going to press on the plus button. I'm going to start by adding an area 2D. The reason it's an area 2D is because the player has to interact with it, and it's the best kind of node for that to happen. So area 2D, and we're going to name it straight away. So I'm going to say end game collision, okay? Okay, so end game collision. Notice it's all one word, capitals for each of the beginning letters plus underscores, okay? Not completely necessary to know that, but actual fact, if you do more complex coding, you know you obviously need to keep an eye on that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click on this and we're going to click the plus button again. Now this time we're going to add a collision shape 2D. So I'm just going to double click on collision shape 2D. And that's it. We're not going to add any sprites. It's just going to be an invisible collision, okay, that we won't see unless we hit it, okay. Now you do have to be careful how big you make this. So let's just make a rectangle. So where it says empty, let's just grab the rectangle tool. And once again, you have to be careful how big, because if you make it too big, it will probably overlap certain things, and you don't want to do that. Otherwise, your player will end up dying all over the place, and obviously that's not ideal. So what I tend to go for is moderately large, and you can choose how large you make yours depending on your own game, of course. But this is pretty much it for me. So let's just go scene, save scene. So end game collision. Make sure it goes in the correct folder. Press save. Now the next thing we need to do is add our script. So click on this top node. Don't add a script to any of these nodes, otherwise it will break. So always the script generally always goes on the top node, and then you press the script button. Make sure it goes into the correct folder, so into this scripts folder with all the other scripts, and then press open. Once you're happy, press create. Now this is really similar to a lot of the other stuff that we've done with the coin and the enemy. So if we head on over to say the coin again, and what we can do is we can just copy all of this code and we can end up pasting it in our endgame collision. However, there is one thing that I did forget. So before we start coding, we do need to set up the signal. So make sure you've got this endgame collision selected. Click on where it says node. And then the one we want is body entered. Same as the coin, all that. So body entered, and then press connect. Make sure it's going to the correct one. Press connect. There we go. Fantastic. So we're now in the end game collision. Just in case you missed that, I'll go back to the coin and I'll copy all of this again. So Control C to copy. Then back to the end game. Now we can pretty much get rid of everything apart from this end game collision and body entered. Okay, we do need that, but everything else can go. And I'm going to press Control V to paste that bit of code in. So we need to make sure this is linking to the HUD. So the HUD is what's got all of our kind of, if the health goes below 0, this is what makes it change to the you lose menu, okay? So we need to make sure it links here. The only other bit we really need is these two lines of code here. We can use the Q3 as well, but actual fact, we don't want to delete this collision. We're just going to leave it there. So I'm just going to grab these two lines of code, Control C, and then I can pretty much delete all of this. So let's just make sure we've got this. So we've got this extend script HUD, and then inside of our on end game collision body entered, which is a bit of a mouthful, we're going to paste if body is named. So if it's the player, you want it to do something. So what do you want it to do? You want it to get a certain node from the HUD. Now the node we want to get isn't score, it's actually health. And then what do we want to do? You want to minus 3 lives. Okay, So by minusing 3 lives, you guarantee if it hits this collision, it will die, okay? It will end the game. So health, and that's pretty much it. So let's just make sure we save all scenes, make sure all that's good. Now we're going to need to open up level 1 and actually add that collision to the page. So this is what we've got so far, just this blue line. So add level 1. Now I've just added a bit more water to mine. So where I actually want the collision to happen is probably here, or maybe down here somewhere. It's up to you really. So where it says level 1, I'm going to click on the link button. And then I'm going to go to my new scene, which says end game collision, and press open. So now we have this end game collision, which has pasted itself in this root position. So we're just going to grab that. And once again, if you're pasting it here, that's fine. You can notice it's slightly too short, which is absolutely fine, because all I'm going to do is press Control D and then paste it as many times as I need it to. And once again, this is where you decide actually how big you want it. You can make it a lot longer. If you know it's going to go on for ages, then you're probably better off making it a bit longer than what I've got. Otherwise you will end up having to duplicate a whole bunch of times, okay? So there's our death collision. So if I go into the water now and I go past a certain point, I will die, okay? So let's save all scenes, let's check that, and all being well, we are all good and it should work. So here we go. So once again, we can do all this. Let's make sure we don't die on the enemies. So I'm going to drop into the water, and there we go. We ended the game. Once again, we still need to get rid of, or we need to work out how to hide these 2 elements here. But we'll do that in a later video. So get that bit done, and I'll see you in the next one.